Hey family, happy new year to you. I hope your holidays have been wonderful. Listen, I want to share this meal that I made for my New Year's dinner. I made an old-fashioned pot roast and it was so good. So there are the ingredients that I'm going to use for this pot roast. Let's go ahead and get into it. So of course, the first thing I did was peel some potatoes. And I probably used maybe about 5 or 6 potatoes. I like to use those Yukon Gold potatoes because to me they cook a little bit faster and they're delicious. Here you see me cutting some slits in my meat. I like to stick some garlic down in there. I love garlic and this is just going to add to the flavor. It's not overly garlicky. So if you don't like garlic, of course you can skip this step. But I promise you that it's going to just give your meat such a wonderful flavor. And then you want to go ahead and season your meat. Listen, I don't use a lot of salt. It might look like that's a lot of salt, but believe me, for that size meat, it's not. But I do go a little ham on the non-salt seasoning. So the garlic powder, I use quite a bit of garlic powder. I used black pepper on here. I used onion powder in addition to the salt that I put on there and the Lawry seasoned salt. And you just want to make sure that you season it up real good. You want to use your hands, get in there and make sure the meat is seasoned really well. And please make sure that you season both sides of your meat. I don't know, for some reason people will season one side of their meat. I hope you don't do that. But anyway, I put the same seasons on the back that I put on the front. I also added some Worcestershire sauce to both sides of the meat, and you just want to make sure that you just work that into the meat. And I didn't cut slits on the back. You know, if you do it on the front and put the garlic in the front, that's going to be enough. So you just want to make sure that you season your meat very well so that you can taste all of that wonderful flavor, okay? So then that's me just seasoning the back side of the meat. Like I said, don't forget to season the meat on both sides. I really could not believe it when I found out that some people would just season one side of their meat. So anyway, while that's being seasoned, I put some onions on because we're going to saute or we're going to sear this beef just a little bit on both sides. You know, we're not going to cook it, but we do want to sear it on both sides. So what you want to do before you put it in the pan is add some flour. You want to cover it in flour. Be really generous with the amount of flour that you use because, like I said, we're not trying to cook the meat, but we do want to give it a nice sear, give it a nice crust. So make sure that you put flour all over the meat, even on the sides. I like to sear that meat on both sides, and then sometimes I'll kind of lay it on the side and sear that part of it too. It's just going to make the flavor amazing, I promise, if you do that. So once you get that all floured up, you're going to go ahead and put that in the pan and sear it until you get a nice golden brown color. So we just put that meat in the pan. You don't need to leave it in there very long. You'll see the color that I get on there, and you can just, get it that way on both sides. And once you do that, you're going to remove that from the pan. I had already taken the onions out before I put the meat in. You're going to set that to the side, and then you're going to start working on your gravy. Now, I just used what was left of the flour that I had. I probably could have used a little bit more flour because it took a while for me to get my gravy like I wanted it. But I just, you use the oil that's still down in the pan, you put the flour down in there, and then you just let that flour taste cook off of there, and you just continue to let that cook until you get the desired color that you want for your gravy. And you don't want it to be thick. I mean, that's it. We're going to add some liquid to it. You don't want it to get really thick. So once I got that flour taste cooked off, and make sure you season your flour too. You want to put seasoning, the same seasoning I used on my meat, I put it in the gravy. You don't want to not season this because you're just going to taste flour. So anyway, I ended up adding to that seasoning some bouillon cube with about 2 cups of water. Also added 1 can of chicken broth on there. Then you're gonna pour that over your roast. And I'm just mixing it up a little bit here. It smells so good, y'all. Then you're gonna put that in the oven. You're gonna cover it with aluminum foil. You're gonna put it in the oven at 325 degrees, and you're gonna let that roast cook for about an hour and a half, okay? So you're gonna put it in the oven, go and make sure it's covered. Go ahead and let that cook. And then while that is in the oven, I chopped up another onion, and then I took it out of the oven and I added my potatoes and my carrots and the onion to the roast. Once you do that, you're going to just kind of mix that up a little bit. You're going to put it back in the oven, let it cook for about another hour. I also made me some mac and cheese, guys. It was so good. Some of the best I ever made. We'll do that another time. All right, so the roast is ready. I just took it out of the oven. I'm telling you guys, this roast came out so good. It was so tender. It was in there for the perfect amount of time. Ended up being about right at 3 hours, maybe a little bit over. You can test the doneness of it. You know, get your potatoes to the doneness that you like to have them at. But anyway, this was so tender, and it wasn't falling apart, but it was like butter. You could slice it like butter, okay? I'm telling you, this was one of the best roasts that I ever cooked. It was moist, it was delicious. I had my macaroni and cheese, and I had some greens, some collards over there. It was absolutely delicious. I will definitely cook this one again. Listen, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, click like and share. Bon appetit, y'all.